So just a few somewhat interesting things that have popped up over the last few days that I thought I'd highlight in a kind of quick video here. So one thing is we now have a runtime for the E3 Nintendo Direct. It will be an hour long, and an hour is a good amount of time for a Nintendo Direct. That's longer than most. A lot of stuff can get revealed there. I know in this image it says it is June 12th, but that is a Japanese image, so it'll be the 12th in Japan. It'll be the 11th for people in America, and my time, it's going to be 12 p.m., so 12 p.m. Eastern time. So wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, do the math, figure that out. But the Direct is going to be an hour long. A couple of days ago, Nintendo of America tweeted this. It says, "Take survival horror with you wherever you go. Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 4 are each available for the Nintendo Switch." And then there was a short video showcasing those 3 games. I'm a fan of Resident Evil, and my favorite Resident Evil installment is Resident Evil 4, so it's really cool to see those games getting, put on the Switch. That's pretty awesome in my book, and honestly, I've been sort of leaning towards the possibility of a Resident Evil character being one of our Smash DLC Fighter Pass fighters. So yeah, this is just a little bit more in favor of something like that possibly happening. Having Resident Evil actually be on the Switch, obviously, is a good thing if the character could potentially be coming to Smash. So I don't know if that character would be Leon or Jill or who, but yeah, I do think a Resident Evil character has a pretty good shot, and considering we just got 3 Resident Evil games on the Switch, yeah, that's all the more reason to potentially get a Resident Evil character in Smash. Speaking of characters I'd love to see as Super Smash Bros. DLC, Steve Mayles, a former Rare designer, he designed a lot of the old Rare characters such as King K. Rool, Dixie Kong, and Banjo-Kazooie, tweeted this. "Can Banjo reclaim the glory of those N64 days? Will he show up at E3 this year? And then he retweeted a drawing of Banjo and Shantae together, and it says they're talking about their N64 and Game Boy Color days. Now, obviously, this seems like a pretty big deal. This is the guy who designed Banjo talking about Banjo showing up at E3. However, I do have to point out that Steve Mayles was not aware that King K. Rool was going to be in Smash. It says the former Rare designer stated that he had no idea he was going to be included, and that was talking about King K. Rool. This was his thoughts on K. Rool getting revealed for Smash. So, despite Steve Mayles designing Banjo, designing K. Rool, he may be very much so out of the loop as far as those characters getting into Smash, but it's still really cool that he seems to be on board for Banjo returning in some way or showing up in some way at E3 this year. Perhaps he's heard some rumors from some people on the inside about Banjo potentially showing up at E3, or perhaps he's just speculating like the rest of us. It's not really clear, but it's really cool that he tweeted that. Something about Banjo and E3 showing up there. It's just pretty neat. Now, another character that has a lot of buzz about them potentially showing up as Smash DLC and potentially being shown off at E3 is Erdrick from Dragon Quest, and we actually have some news about Dragon Quest. So Gematsu over on Twitter wrote, "Surprising Dragon Quest news teased for June 10th due issue of Weekly Jump," and I believe he's talking about Shonen Jump, the manga magazine, and then there's a link to Gematsu's article. And then the Gematsu website reads, "The June 10th due issue of Weekly Shonen Jump will contain surprising news on the Dragon Quest series according to this week's issue. Dragon Quest series creator Yuji Horii previously said he would share information about the voice drama downloadable content for Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. It has also been a while since the new Dragon Quest Monsters game for console was confirmed. Stay tuned." And then there's a link to the Japanese source for this information. Now, obviously, that doesn't say anything about Smash, but there's been a lot of talk about Erdrick potentially being one of our Smash DLC characters. And June 10th is only a couple days before E3. I mean, technically E3 is June 11th, but with Japan and the time zones and stuff, the Shonen Jump should be out about 2 days before that. So obviously, with that scheduled Nintendo Direct happening at E3, it seems unlikely Erdrick would be revealed before that if he's Smash DLC and then get into that issue of Shonen Jump. But it is interesting, supposedly there's some surprising Dragon Quest news happening only a few days before what could be the day Erdrick gets revealed for Super Smash Bros. Another interesting thing that happened this week is a new Totaku figure has been announced. So over on Twitter, @mytotaku said, "Welcome to the #Totaku collection Joanna Dark, @RareLTD. Expected to release September. Joanna Dark is from the Perfect Dark series, which is a Rare-owned franchise. And this is not the first time Totaku has made figures for Rare characters. They also made a Banjo and Conquer Totaku fairly recently. So once again, we have Rare getting more merchandise. This seems to be a trend that's happened in the last year or so, and it's pretty interesting. Seems like Rare might be gearing up to potentially bring back some of these old characters. Now, another character that has a Totaku figure is Artorias from Dark Souls. Now, Artorias is kind of the weird, odd man out character that's part of the Google Theory lineup of potential DLC characters. Here's some images of his Totaku figure, and he also just got announced a kind of interesting other new figure he's getting. At GoNintendoTweet tweeted, First 4 Figures reveals Dark Souls Artorias bust statue. So First 4 Figures is making a Artorias statue. This isn't the first time First 4 Figures has made an Artorias statue, but it's pretty interesting they happen to be making one right now, right in the lead up to E3. I made a video recently where the main focus was about First 4 Figures because the company has recently been invited to E3. Alex Davis of First 4 Figures wrote, "Thanks for the invite, Rare," and then it says E3 2019 briefing, Microsoft Theater, Sunday, June 9th, 2019. Dear Alex Davis, thank you for completing your registration. Your attendance is now confirmed for the Xbox E3 2019 briefing. So the interesting thing there is that the First 4 Figure statue making company has been invited to E3, and they've been invited by the company Rare. First 4 Figures has made a Banjo-Kazooie statue in the recent past, so it's just kind of interesting that Rare would invite them. It's possible something Banjo could be showing up at E3. Now, it's also really interesting that the next figure that First 4 Figures is working on, the next statue, is a bust of Artorias, which is a kind of out there character that ended up part of the Google Theory lineup of characters. I still don't believe the Google Theory. I still am thinking Erdrick is likely. I don't actually think Google Theory is the full DLC lineup or anything like that, but it's really interesting. First 4 Figures has been invited to E3, has some links to Banjo, and now has some recent ties to Artorias. They had made Artorias statue in the past, but now they're making, that's like the next statue that they're making. It's just pretty interesting. Now, First 4 Figures makes all sorts of video game statues, so obviously just looking at what statues they're making does not yield us, what characters are going to be in the Smash DLC or anything like that. I just find it very, very intriguing that an Artorias statue, of all things, has just been announced, and First 4 Figures has been invited by Rare to E3, and with both Banjo and Artorias as part of the Google Theory DLC lineup, it's just really interesting that those things have lined up. And some final interesting news for E3 is that Netflix and the producers and writers of The Simpsons are going to have their own spots at E3. So Netflix was coming out with that Stranger Things video game, so potentially more Netflix-themed video games could be announced by Netflix, or maybe Netflix is going to finally show up on the Nintendo Switch. That's something I've wanted for a while here. As far as The Simpsons getting their own panel at E3, kind of strange. I would love a sequel to Simpsons Hit and Run or Virtual Springfield. I grew up with that on my PC and thought it was an amazing game back in the day. So I'd love some new Simpsons games. So it's a little strange that Netflix and The Simpsons are getting highlighted at E3, but yeah, there you go. There's some things that are going to be there. Alright, so that's pretty much all the interesting stuff I've noticed over the last couple days. A lot of stuff, gearing up for E3, and that's pretty much what the next couple weeks here are going to be, just getting excited for the big news we're going to get at E3. So if you guys have any comments on any of the stuff I talked about in this video, leave them below. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. Really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.